Okay, we're back again with another Battleborn Duckers podcast. Tonight we have a couple special guests. We've got Mr. Nate Vadrine and Ron Cannon. Nate Vadrine is kind of the guy behind the scenes, also an owner at Battleborn Duckers. And this is actually his Turnkey Property Solutions studio. So he does a lot, and he says a lot of inappropriate things, and I hope they come out tonight because it's going to be awesome. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, Nate's supposed to be our silent partner, but he's not very silent. He's usually in the background holding the sign saying "your mama" or something like that, so we feel loved.
Yeah, if you ever see us laughing in the show, it's usually Nate in the background just putting up inappropriate things on clipboards, trying to distract us during the show. And we do the best we can, but he is pretty adequate at being chaotic. So, yeah, and so even though Nate's kind of a silent partner, he still lives that motto of take one, teach one. He recently, about a year or so ago, 2 years ago maybe, I don't know, it was a while back, but he did take Ron Cannon out on an antelope hunt. Now, Ron did hunt when he was younger, but kind of got out of it, and we're going to hear his story. And why don't you tell us a little about yourself, Ron, what you do and where you been? Maybe not all the places,
yeah.
The appropriate ones.
I've been everywhere.
I'm from, I was from Utah, but I moved here when I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
Our family had an auto parts business that took a ton of my time, and that's probably one of the things that kept me from hunting. We used to always say we love holidays like the 4th of July because we only have to work half a day. We get off at 6. And so we spent a lot of time doing that and probably not doing some of the things that we should have been doing. But
yeah.
So I bought my first gun, I think when I was maybe 12. I seriously rode my bike to Sprouse Ritz. I saw it was on sale in the paper, and the lady got up on a ladder and got it up off the top and got it down and sold it to me, and I rode home with it on my bike.
What kind of gun was that?
The
A
liberals,
22.
The liberals are crying right now. They're bawling.
But they wouldn't sell me any bullets. But they sold me the gun. I went home.
I'm surprised you cleared the background check at 12. That's a lot of years for you.
That sounds like what's going on right now. They'll sell us the gun, but not the bullets,
Exactly.
huh?
There are no bullets to buy.
Yeah,
They
so
figured it out because of Ron.
I can remember that I always had to have my mom go get bullets for me. But we would ride our bikes in the desert in North Las Vegas. We'd ride out in the desert and shoot rabbits.
What part of town do you think that is? Now, what cross streets?
Lake Mead and Civic Center.
You were shooting rabbits off Lake Mead and Civic Center.
Well, no,
They still have shootings down there.
No, we had to
fortunately enough.
ride. That's where I lived. But if we rode down to the railroad track, and there was a place that went under the railroad track down where Losi Road is now,
Mm-hmm.
and on the other side of the railroad tracks, you could hunt rabbits all over the
The
place.
good thing is the species just changed, but there's still all the hunting you want out there.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. They also don't pass background
Yeah,
checks.
they don't have-
Anyways.
and they can't sell them bullets.
It's a rough neighborhood.
Guns.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite stories is being on the ambulance down there, and that was off of Las Vegas Boulevard and Civic Center. 4 a.m, we walk into this little Mexican restaurant for a GSW gunshot, and we walk in there, and 4 a.m, everybody's just sitting down there eating their tacos, and we're like, is someone been shot in here? And this old guy raises his hand, and we're like, okay. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy
Wait,
how fast that area is growing.
Was the old guy eating a taco too?
he was not eating at the time, oddly enough. Yeah, I think the gunshot wound has something to do with it.
Yeah, he made it not so
That would be a good taco if he got shot and he was still.
He's like, let me get one of those. I know they have like at least a 4-minute response time at this time in the morning.
Yeah, up until the 80s, that North Las Vegas area there was nothing there. I mean, I remember
Oh yeah.
I had a buddy that lived off of Cheyenne, and it was literally to get to his house was go to the 3rd telephone pole, take a right on the dirt road, go out a mile, and that's where we live.
Yeah.
And he had Siegfried and Roy's old props were on his property, and Craig Ranch
Yeah.
Golf Course was right there. We'd go collect golf
Yep.
balls on there. That place it's blown up now. You can't
Yeah. Oh,
do much
yeah,
hunting
it
there
is.
anymore.
It makes sense that there's wildlife back there though, because Las Vegas, the translation for it is the meadows, and so I can see there was there quite a bit of wildlife when you went out there, or was it hard to find?
It was kind of hard to find, but there were a lot of rabbits.
Well,
Yeah.
that area has got.
Yeah.
You look at that Tule Springs area, which is just west of that, and it's got the mammoths and all that stuff. It's a
Oh yeah.
fossil dig site. It's one of
Yeah.
the biggest fossil dig sites in the world. So It's kind of crazy, just the stuff that's over there that
Yeah.
you would never know if you weren't from here.
Yeah. When I was 13 or 14, we built a little dune buggy. You know, we shortened the frame when we were kids, and because my dad would let us do stuff, and we would push it on the street across Lake Mead. And when we got in the desert across from Lake Mead, we were allowed to start it and then take off.
Well, Nate's really good at shortening the frames on his cars, but usually it's not with cutting tools or anything.
Yeah.
It's usually with another car.
Yeah, we use compression method when I do.
Same thing with him. If he pushes it across Lake Mead, he could drive it again.
Exactly.
Anyways, so you're a big hunter when you're young. You used to go out all the time. And you're telling us that it was different back when you were young, when you'd be able to go out hunting. It's changed from now
Yeah.
to then.
I don't remember, if we were going to go deer hunting, getting turned down for a tag. I just remembered whenever we decided to go, we just went. I'm
Well,
sure that
The tag system didn't come in until I think the 80s. I think maybe in Nevada. I know it was fairly late. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a fairly, well, I guess you say fairly new, but even the 80s
Yeah.
now is not. It was a little bit ago, but that's the thing is, there was opportunity that there isn't as much of now.
Yeah.
So, but we also have 300,000 hunters putting in for tags, so it's kind of tough if we let everybody just go wild. We'd never have any animals back. So.
Well, the other thing too is Nevada has grown immensely in population since back then to now, and
Yeah.
we've had a reduction in deer population, so the number has been inversed, and so yeah, you're gonna have less opportunity now because you have more people that want it, and you have less deer than there were back then.
Well, and we're taking the habitat away little by little. I mean, you get
Yeah.
up in even look at Mount Charleston. Back in the day, there were maybe a couple houses up on the mountain. Now it's a regular community up there, and they're
Yeah.
building pretty much right up to the base of the mountain. So
Yeah.
you start taking that little bit of habitat area out, and we keep doing that little by little, and it reduces your area of forage, so that obviously you're not going to have as many animals, and then every animal that's there is fighting for that same food source. So you're going to have a reduction in
Yeah.
numbers and size usually. So.
Yeah. And so you got when you left hunting, it was this easy. It was just go pick one up at Walmart. And did they have Walmarts? Go pick one up somewhere.
Yeah,
What'd
you
you
just
say? What was
went-
the store you said earlier?
I don't know if they sold hunting licenses, but
Go to Wonder World.
Yeah, Wonder World. This was Sprouse Ritz. It was like a little 5 and dime store.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was like a drugstore and 5 and dime store. Had a little soda fountain in North Las Vegas, but yeah, it was,
So when you left, you went there, you got your hunting tag, and you went hunting with your family. And
Yeah.
then explain how Nate got you back into it. How did he trick you back into hunting?
Well-
You got off the drug for so many years. How did he deal you back into it?
Nate and I worked with Boy Scouts.
Uh-huh.
I hope this kind of explains Nate a little bit. And
Oh Lord! Good thing we're not going live.
we went on a trip with a whole gang of boys, and we ended up in Antimony, Utah, and we were at a park where Bear Grylls evidently had invested in this little adventure park, and they had zip lines and all kinds of stuff. So we were there, and all of the pretty girls from the town were the guides on the zip lines and stuff.
Okay.
So all these boys are going up on the zip line and things. When they come down, Nate is saying, "Hey, did you meet that girl up there? What's her name? Did you talk to her?" And the kids are just, "Well, no, I didn't." And he was saying, "You guys are so backwards. We've got to do something with you guys. You kids you're weird." And so him and I were walking
Nate calling somebody weird. Now there's a thought.
up. Nate doesn't have a filter. Nate just says what you're thinking, kind of like in the back of your mind. So we were walking up the gas station to get a Coke, and we walked by this whole group of girls. Nate looks at him and says, walks over to a lady and said, "What are you guys here? What are these girls here for?" And they said, "Well, no, we're on a camp out, or young women on a camp out." And he says, "Do you think you could bring these young women to the pizza parlor in town if we brought all of our boys and we brought the pizza and let them talk?" because we've got some boys with a real problem of talking to girls. And he had it all lined
So
up before.
awkward, man. Anyways, go ahead.
It was, I couldn't believe that it was, that he was doing it. It was the greatest thing in the world, and I loved it. Except the time he was picking to do that was our closing exercises for this huge week-long camp out, and we had a guy from Salt Lake that was going to speak, and it was. I said, "No, Nate, we can't do it. This is the greatest idea ever," and that was kind of my introduction to the real Nate.
The real Nate.
And that was after that. It was like, I could like to be this guy's buddy.
We tried the same thing with Ricardo. We were up hunting and we were coming back, and Nate was supposed to pick Ricardo. He was supposed to meet us and pick Ricardo and bring him back. I think it might have been. Was it that?
Yeah, Ron was out there.
Yeah,
That
it was
after
that hunt that you were on with us. Ron.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
so we stop, and there's this cute girl in the restaurant, and we're like, Ricardo, we're leaving you. Nate'll come pick you up. Go get her phone number, and then left Ricardo sitting there.
I said, if Nate don't show up, just go home with her.
Ricardo wasn't having any of it though. I'm like, dude, really? She's cute.
That doesn't sound like Ricardo, but anyway. So then you became friends with Nate because you just realized he doesn't have any filter, and it's fun being around those type
Fun
of
to
people.
be around, and he started talking about hunting.
Yeah.
And I didn't, this whole tag thing was a little difficult. I'm an older guy. I'm not completely tech unsavvy, but I would go there and look at it and go, well, how do you know where's a good place to sign up? And how, what am I going to do with this? And so I talked to Nate, and he said, well, just come over to my office, and I'll put in for a bunch of stuff for you.
Blind trust, huh?
Yeah.
That's how you
So
ended
he-
up in the middle of
So
Nevada.
a lot
with
of depredation
nothing
tags
around.
on Nate.
Kind of at the end of putting in for everything, he said, I mean, it'll never happen, but if you did get everything we put in for, it'd be $3,800.
Well,
And
good.
so he put in, and I drew an elk, or I didn't draw an elk. I wished I did.
Well, the first
I
year,
drew an antelope.
Yeah, that was crazy. You drew a buck antelope. Is that they're called bucks, right? A buck antelope on your
Yeah.
first draw,
Yeah.
muzzle loader, after not hunting for years.
Oh no, it was a regular whatever.
Oh, it was a
weapon.
regular
Pretty
rifle?
good
Regular
rifle, yeah.
Oh, I thought you had him a muzzle loader. That's even more crazy. And you drew it up in the middle of Nevada. Like, there's nothing around up there. Am I correct? It was
Yeah.
like up by Austin, Nevada.
It was by Austin, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, we went up and like second day.
Yeah. So,
We had been up there hunting prior, and we'd seen all those antelope in that valley.
yeah.
They were just always there. And then, so we drove up. And of course, me being the abundant timekeeper I am, I think what time I said we'll leave at like noon, and we ended up pulling out at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, it was
Something
pretty
like
late
that.
when we
That
got there.
happens all the
That's
time.
that's Nate's
So-
Nate's routine right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, how many times did I ask what time the podcast was today?
I don't know. Yeah. So Nate, he's like, I'm gonna leave at this time. You're like, well, we will be gone before midnight. That's what I know.
So we got up there and trying to find that first camping spot that we camped at.
Yeah.
Man, we took my truck and trailer off road and finally found it, popped everything up, got a few hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And I told Ron, I said, man, we're going to wake up, we're going to walk to the edge of those trees, and there's going to be antelope there.
Yep.
We walked to the edge of those trees. There wasn't even a jackrabbit. So we spent the morning driving around to all these spots that I had previously scoped out on the Onyx hunt.
Uh huh.
Did we even see any deer?
We saw maybe one deer
Yeah,
and one antelope that was just like a half a mile away.
yeah, it was just crazy. We didn't
Yeah.
see anything.
Yeah. So and then you had a few things that you actually stalked with him, right? And so you went to a different location.
Yeah.
And what's the trick? What'd you figure out? Antelope are next to.
Oh, alfalfa fields. They love alfalfa.
Everything loves alfalfa fields.
So you went on Onyx and you're like, where are all the alfalfa fields at? Okay, that is where we're going.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to make it a real hunt, and it just, you feel bad about shooting. You know, you're helping the farmer, but you kind of feel bad about.
Nope.
It's like
Nope,
shooting.
not me. I feel
Oh,
good about
yeah.
having a freezer full of meat.
Nate feels bad
I-
when it's too easy.
Yeah, I like to really get up there, and
That's why you like the depredation tags.
Yeah, that's-
'cause
you know.
you don't want to shoot anything.
that's why I hiked up to 11,000 feet to shoot a doe last year.
I don't understand why you do things. Anyway, so you find the alfalfa fields, and then Ron gets on the first one, right? You find the first one for him, and what do? You have what kind of decoy do you have, or cover?
This is, I can tell this.
Okay.
He had a great big umbrella with a picture of an antelope on it.
What?
And so
He also had one with a cow on it, Ron. He didn't pull out the one with the cow on
no,
it?
it was the one with the antelope on it. He opened up this big umbrella, and it's probably 6 feet across. And we put the umbrella down because there was an antelope out there with a couple of females and maybe some small ones, good size too.
Yeah.
And but it was a pretty long shot. It was probably, it was a long ways. It was probably
25 yards.
no out there.
Nate would have missed it.
But
still.
we started walking, and it was just looking at us. With the umbrella down and us behind the umbrella. We walked, but the wind was changing, and so I can't remember. There was something with the wind, but we kept walking closer, and we walked too close because we got overly confident. Because it would just look at us and take a couple of steps forward.
It would come towards you?
It was coming towards us, and so then it was a ways away. I don't know, but anyway, we decided, okay, now I'm gonna shoot. We put the umbrella down. I got ready to shoot, and it took off. I don't know if it was the wind changing or what, but I loved it because they're so curious.
Yeah.
They're really curious, and in my mind, I just think they kind of are thinking, I can run so dang fast. They're going to get a little bit close, but they can't touch me because I can outrun them. Nothing can touch me, and so they do kind of. They're sort of so curious that they stop and watch.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's.
My first antelope hunt too. Like growing up, we never antelope hunted. We just deer hunted, And so I get this muzzleloader tag, and I find these antelope, and I was road hunting. And so I get out of the car and I start belly crawling up this wash, and I belly crawl for a good hour. Belly crawl, and I thought I was being sneaky. And I finally get up to where I'm in range, and I sit up, and I noticed they had walked up a hill, and they watched me for a good hour and a half belly crawl towards them. But
He's
I got the
crawling
last
through all our
laugh
poop.
because I won. So anyway, so that was the first one you got, and then what?
Then I took a shot at another one, missed.
Yeah.
And then we had stopped and talked to the farmers,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, yeah, if they're in the field, go ahead and shoot them. I don't care. Just make sure you know where you're shooting. Don't shoot my tractor or my house.
Or my pivots.
Yeah, or my pivots. Just know what you're doing, and don't clean them in the field.
Well, antelope are pretty light. They're probably pretty easy to drag.
Yeah,
out
they
there.
weren't bad to drag.
Yeah.
So
And
how was
so-
it? How was it getting your first animal, Nate? Or skinning your first animal?
Because Blaine wasn't there.
Yeah, it was interesting. Threw it up on the tailgate.
So tell the story about Blaine. We talked about Blaine in a previous podcast about how he's just a man's hunter. I mean, he doesn't know optics and he doesn't know firearms, but he just knows hunting in general and how to get done. I've never seen Blaine unsuccessful in a tag. I've seen him unsuccessful in a deprivation tag, but for the most part, if you go out with Blaine, you're gonna be successful. And so when we first went out with Nate has a similar story to Ron. Go ahead and tell it. I won't tell it for you.
Well, yeah, I got to correct you though. Blaine just doesn't flex his knowledge of guns and optics, but he knows what's going on.
Does
right?
he?
Yeah, and then the only reason he wasn't successful on that depredation hunt is he spent 3 days helping you track down some does. So
I don't know about that.
but no, I mean
If I remember right, someone messed with my scope on that hunt.
Yeah, that's what I'd say too.
it's
What's
just
wrong with your shotgun?
You got those knobs that you just turn, Ron, and they just
Nate said, "What time are we leaving?" Just turned my rifle knobs to the right time. He's like, "Okay, I set the alarm, guys."
doesn't work. No, so what? We'd probably opened the company with 3 years.
We opened in 2011, and then probably I think I had Mitchell, so it was around 20. No, Mitchell was before the company opened,
Yeah.
so it was about 2012, 2015 between there.
What took you so long to invite me?
I don't know, man. I think we were just both busy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but you had kind of said, "Hey, do you hunt?" Like we never talked about it before. I said,
Yeah.
"Well, I used to," but I kind of had my dad always hunt, and we'd go down and hunt on the Boulder Mountain in Utah, And then when he had gotten remarried, it kind of fizzled out, and he got busy with life. And I was 12 or 13 and couldn't figure that out. But I still loved to hunt. In fact, I loved duck hunting so much that when I got my lab, I'd throw it in my backpack and put it on my bicycle, and I'd bicycle down to the river with my shotgun and go jump shoot ducks. And so after talking to Ron and Blaine decided that I needed to go hold a firearm because it had been 6 or 7 years. And
Safety first.
yeah, Ron makes fun of me because I got that 25-06, and he just thinks it's a weak gun.
There's only thing shorter than the Nate's attention span. It's the bullets of that 25-06.
Well,
But,
there's one other thing shorter with Nate too, but
Can't confirm. Anyways, go ahead.
But so Blaine takes me out to shoot, and Blaine was popping pop cans with iron sights with his old 30-30 at 150 yards, and he'd shoot it 2 times, one when it was coming up and one when it was falling back down. And that's just the way Blaine is. He's a man's man. He just understands animals.
Yeah, this understands manliness.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so you go out with Blaine on the first hunt, and he's got y'all dialed in, and it was a doe hunt, again, up by Austin, Nevada, same place you took Ron. And how did it go? It was a tough hunt, right?
Yeah, I mean, what we drove about, what did you say, like a total of 30 seconds?
Maybe.
So 30 seconds out of our campground. Saw, 10 does standing in the middle of the road.
Yeah, we had to let him cross the road before we shot.
And of course, this is when I realized that buck fever really exists. And then I realized there's another thing that exists besides buck fever, and that's Ron pressure. So I get down, he goes, I'm going to let you take the first shot. And I go, okay. And I get down, and I'm like trying to get all lined up so it's perfect, just beautiful, watching everything. Ron goes, are you going to shoot?
he's not exactly a patient
Yeah.
man.
If you don't shoot, I'm going to shoot. Nate, is everything okay? You going to shoot? You're going to fine, I'm shooting. I'm shooting right now. I'm going to do it.
Nate was asking stupid questions like, hey, which one do you think's a mom? And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to ask him.
I tell him, you've heard Ollie, my little boy. I say, why did Bambi's mom get shot? So Bambi could grow up tough, right?
Because she was tasty, that's why.
Yeah.
You're trying to reenact Bambi. I see, man.
Yeah.
Living Disney.
So
So.
yeah, Disney teaches great lessons. Great lessons. Right.
Dude never got Fiona if his mom ain't got shot.
But yeah,
So.
yeah, no, and the problem is like you said, I shot that first deer, and then you shot again. How many times did you shoot?
Oh, I don't know. We got 2 deer.
Yeah, we got 2 deer, but I think you had to swap out for your backup gun. It's easier for Rhonda just to have a second gun than to reload first.
You know what I did? I just took one of Nate's bullets and threw it because it's about the same thing.
Well,
And that's how I got him.
I've been with him, and he actually asked the game warden on duck hunting, so you can only have three rounds.
Oh, I taught him that. You know,
And the game warden's like, no, you can have as many guns as you want, I guess. So Ron comes to the next duck hunt with 2 guns. So he had it covered.
And Ron is told on the podcast, and I got to say this, I didn't realize I was such a bad friend, but the first time Ron went duck hunting was with me, and he had asked me to pick him up a plug, and I didn't really, know which plug to buy, so I bought 2 or 3. And then I couldn't figure out how to stick it in his gun, but that's where Ron learned you're only supposed to have 3 bullets.
Yeah,
That's where he made best friends with the old green jeans.
Yeah, he got me. But that's so funny that I got reintroduced Nate back into big game hunting, and then now Nate makes it sound easy that he just took me out duck hunting. He had to pull me kicking and screaming to duck hunt the first time. He's like, let's go duck hunting, Ron. Let's go duck hunting. I was like, no, I don't do that stupid duck stuff, man.
It's too hard.
He's like, let's go. I was like, you have to get a reservation or something, man. I don't know. It's too hard. And then he took me out, and I shot my first Maganzer. I shot a Maganzer with my pump action shotgun, and it was over. It was over after that. And Nate's like, I wish I would never introduced you.
Yeah, now I lose him 6 months out of the year out of the office.
From October to February, Ron's not in the office anymore.
I'm in the office. I'm really sleepy. So
He's in his office with the door closed, and his feet on the desk.
You know what? We can say this, that Ron is actually more productive during hunting season because he's found all the spots that you get 4G on the duck blinds, and he'll sit there and he'll answer emails from 2 a.m. when he's out there till 5, shooting light. So we can say that, we can joke, but he's really productive.
Are you gonna tell the story about Nate when we were out hunting the one time and Nate came with us?
Oh yeah, so Nate comes out with it. And I think I've only hunted with Nate without the kids maybe once. It's the only time he's been in the blind with us, and so we're out hunting, and it was a rough morning. We got a couple ducks, but Ron goes to pack up, and so he's out there pulling decoys in, and his phone rings. So Ron, both business guys are in the duck blind. So Ron answers the phone. He's talking on the phone and standing out in the duck blind. And Nate looks at me and he goes, "You ain't got a hair on your if you don't shoot right now." And so he's telling me to shoot when Ron's on the phone with clients. So just so we can do that. Well, then Ron, one day we're sitting there, and Ron and I, this is a great story. We're sitting out we're in a duck blind, and
We're in kayaks on Paranagit.
Yeah, in kayaks. And so Ron went to throw his kayak up on the roof of his wife's car and kind of broke the window out. And so Ron wasn't going to be able to hunt anymore unless he fixed her window. So he's on the phone with the glass shop, right? And all I remember, the lady, I think she speaks Spanish or something like that. She didn't speak real great English, but Ron's like, "Hold on a second, there's ducks in." And he lets off 3 rounds and then picks the phone back up. Okay, where were we at?
Is that first time that we were shooting and he was out doing that? And he goes, "Oh, I'm just in North Vegas."
Yeah, probably.
Anyways, and so we were talking about Blaine earlier being a manly man. One of the funny things about going to hunt with Nate for the first time is he shoots his first deer, and Nate's pretty excited. I can see it clicking. I'm like, once you get somebody into hunting, it clicks. You can see it in their eyes, and Nate had it in his eyes, and so he was excited. He was excited. He goes, "Let me get my knife real quick." And we'd already got it and we got back to camp, and Nate goes to get his knife and he's looking for it, and by the time he comes out, Blaine had already skinned his whole deer for him. And so Nate's like, "Man, I wanted to do that." And then the next year, like, it started to become a joke that Nate would be like, "Hey, let me go wash my hands," and then Blaine would skin his whole deer for him. And so it comes around to Ron Cannon, and it says Nate and Ron Cannon. Nate goes, "Well, here's my chance."
And I think Ron actually ended up skinning most of it. Didn't I stab you on accident? Didn't
That's
I,
a
like,
good
cut your
friend.
finger?
Not really deeply.
Yeah, it was I just remember, like, we were skinning down, and I was
Yeah.
going from the top, and you were coming from the bottom, and I think I cut your finger pretty bad.
No, not too bad. It was just a little bit.
I mean,
Yeah.
can
But
you hold-
it did take us a long time. We looked at the clock before we started, and I haven't cleaned an animal for a long, long time. And how long did it take us?
it was like an hour and a half.
I know.
we were like, we got to do this
longest.
fast.
We looked at the watch when we were finished and went, "What?" It was getting dark.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But it was
you-
clean. It was really clean, right?
It was really
It was
clean.
really clean.
Yeah.
Well, with antelope, it's really hard to keep that meat clean unless you're being very meticulous, because
Yeah.
that hair pulls off, and so the
Yep.
hair is pulling off when you're trying to do it, and you're trying to keep that hair off the meat, and it is a task.
Yeah,
And
and there's something
animals.
with that hair on antelope wrecks the meat. Really.
Well, an antelope is really particular. If you don't get it skinned out and cooled down like super, super quick, it gets
Yeah.
really gamey really fast. We were talking to an old boy, or we were outside of Ely, right?
We were on the youth hunt outside of Ely, just in the middle of nowhere.
And he was telling us basically, you got to skin it, get it on ice right away. And he said even putting it in the freezer, once it's in the freezer for 6 months, that it starts to turn in the freezer. And so you'll get that gaminess out of it. So the trick is to get it cleaned as fast as you can, get it on ice as fast as you can, and cook it as fast as you can.
Yeah,
You
my,
know.
Interesting.
Now, you
my-
did that, right, Nate? You had what'd
Yeah,
you do?
We
Yeah.
had ice.
we had
Yeah.
ice ready to go, but that's what my dad's philosophy always was when you hunted antelope. It was the only time that it was okay to go out and find them in the night, and then right when the sun came up and shooting like was okay, and as they stood up and shook the Mountain Dew off their backs, you could shoot them because that was the only way they tasted good.
There you go.
So,
Yeah, there is something to be said about that. Like, you don't want to get your antelope up and running, and you don't want to, because as soon as it gets
Yeah.
up and running, it releases that lactic acid, just like the things that make us cramp when we're fat. So they release that into their muscle, and then their muscles are meat, and so you're gonna get an animal that has all
Yeah.
those nasty juices going around in it.
Well, that's why one of the reasons that it pays to be a better shot and take good shots, because you start
Yeah.
chasing an animal down, you're getting that adrenaline rush going in the animal, and it's just your meat's not gonna taste as good. It changes the way the meat is. So if you can get something just calm, one shot, and drop it without that stressor, you're gonna have a better meat.
And you don't find them every time either.
No, and we get some people, like I know some people that are the guys that'll go and take a 2,000-yard shot, and they build guns specifically for that. And I'm like, to me, there's no sport in shooting an animal 3 ridge lines over. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like the animal, you didn't even give it a chance, right? So,
Yeah.
Well, hey, Ron, what was your favorite memory from that first hunt that we did?
I don't know. The whole thing was good. I mean, I've listened to the podcasts, and I agree that the best part of hunting isn't always shooting the animal. It's being out there, having time where nobody's really going to bother us. We're shooting the breeze, looking and hunting and having a good time, and enjoy the animals, enjoy the stuff. That, to me, that's the very best part. I mean, I hate it if I go and don't get something. That's bad, but it isn't the highlight. I mean, if somebody said, well, I'll just drive you out here and you can shoot it, and it would save all that time, it'd be like, well, you're taking the whole good part away.
well, and
Yeah.
the cool thing about that hunt was, so you went with Nate,
Yeah.
so you got to spend that time with Nate, and then Nate went up on, I think you were on a doe hunt or a depredation hunt up at Baker Ranch,
and
right?
and I went along with him.
And so he went along, and Ron and I were up at Bassett Lake for opener that year. We decided
Yeah.
to go to Bassett Lake that year, and so Ron got to come and he shared some of his antelope with us on that hunt. So you take
Yeah.
that one incident, and now you've got a whole group of us. So it was Blaine, Ricardo, Ron, and I, the whole group of us that got to share in that experience as well. And there we had 2 different hunts going on at the same time, but we all met up, and
yeah,
you know, you got to. Sometimes the best part of it's the campfire afterwards, or the
Yep.
evening when everybody kind of winds down.
you bet.
And you get to share the stories and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed my time in the duck blind with you because I got to learn about your history, your business history, right? So coming from that corporate structure and stuff like that, and having an auto parts store, and I'm a gearhead, so that, you know, but you learn these stories when you're sitting in those blinds or out on a deer hunt after the hunt. You know, sometimes you get so wrapped up in the hunt part of it
Yeah.
that downtime is when you really get to have the best experience.
Yeah, and there's a lot, you're together a lot, and not people are around, and you end up trusting each other, and you share things that you wouldn't share otherwise.
Yeah, you get to have those like meaningful conversations. You know, we live in a world kind of where you don't have that anymore. You know, you go on Facebook and you go on TikTok and you get the 30-second version of Ron. Maybe if Ron or Nate are on there. And then when you're out in the duck blind or you're out deer hunting, you're out antelope hunting, you have like how long's the drive to Austin? Like 10 hours round trip minimum.
That's a
You
long
know,
way.
so you can't hide who you are for 10 hours. You know, and Nate don't hide who he is anytime.
He doesn't anyway.
So
You can't hide it for 10 minutes.
you don't want to. Yeah, but I mean, like, and so you get to see real versions of people. You get to hear stories that you probably never hear because it just being out there hunting
Yeah.
brings that out. You said something earlier about the electronic system being really difficult for you and being a real obstacle.
Well, I mean, I could do it, but I had no idea if I was like choosing the right area or the right time.
Well, that's the thing
Yeah.
is so there are so many areas, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't have some background or some way to find information
Sure.
out, if you don't know where to look, it's pretty daunting. I mean, because then you have every area is not the same, right? So I may have a combined area for an antelope hunt that it broken up into 3 different deer hunts, right? So it's not, you
Yeah.
can't even just go from one species to another and just keep that same area. You got to look back at, okay, then you got to say, okay, I haven't hunted this area, so where are the animals going to be at?
Sure.
You know, what's the landscape out there? Am I going to be able to get in? Am I have to walk in? Because you get up around Elko, and if you want big bucks, a lot of places you're going to have to pack in or hike in for a day, and then you're going to hunt from there. So that stuff
Nate's
gets a
done
little
that
daunting.
already.
Yeah, it's not just about big bucks. It's about those high elevation does. Those.
Yeah, you better watch it because Gaudette might hunt you down.
So what I was saying is about that is when it comes to teaching one, if you have a friend that's a little bit older, not technology savvy, or is just getting back into hunting, it doesn't hurt. You don't have to give them your secrets, but you can take them and put them on a computer and be like, hey, listen, this is what I know about this area, and this is what I know about this area, and these are where the deer are in this area, and hey, you could do this one in a non-4-wheel drive car. Hey, this one you're going to have to hike a little bit. Hey, this is a really easy short of the horn antelope hunt. So if you have that knowledge, you don't have to give away your secrets just to help somebody get into it. They're going to do it anyways, most likely. And so might as well make it easier for them. And where Ron, I mean, he didn't hunt for years and years and years. And then he got back into it. All those years, he was doing good stuff. I've heard stories and been out there with him, so I know he's doing good stuff. And so, if you have a friend and you know they're good, it doesn't hurt to help them out a little bit. And I have a gentleman that comes in the office. Nate sees people in my office all the time that I think Nate gets sick of it sometimes. He's like, all that Ron does, he's always in his office talking about hunting with somebody. But, networking, right? Anyway, so...
Not working
Well,
is what
and
they call that, Ron, not networking.
I think there's a lot of value. Ron's got 60 years of experience and life experience. And, man, we talked for 2 days straight. Just you and I, and just got to know each other even better. And you were helping me through some business issues we were having. And you could relate and say, oh, man, when I had that problem, then we talked about our wives and,
Well, and I think
Don't
that's
give
part
away our
of it.
secrets, man. We don't tell we talk about our wives and figure stuff out when we're hunting.
But that's
we don't talk about what we talked about.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of the things about the hunting thing. It's not necessarily just the going out and getting an animal. It's those life stories, right? So we all have different experiences. We all bring something different to the table, and so you get to bring more out of a guy. So you're on a 2-day hunt or a 3-day hunt, or Ron and I are in the duck blind at least once or twice a weekend minimum, and then during the week as well. So Ron and I, it's the point now we know what each other are going to do before we even think about doing it.
Brian likes to pack up early and feed me hamburgers.
That's right. Well, you got one hamburger in like the last 2 years, and I'm way ahead of the ball game on that.
Whoa, I've seen Ron eat a lot more than one hamburger.
Well, I didn't say he hasn't eaten a lot more, but he can't bet for crap.
Oh, no, that's true, man. He owes me a lot of lunches still.
But no, I think that's a big thing is we get out there and we do share the stories. So you're going into a hunting blind, and we brought Ron into our duck blind, and we started learning about his history in Las Vegas and the businesses. And there were businesses that he was in a business that I was in all the time when I was younger, right? So you get to know those people, and you put a face to things. We've got some other people like the Mike Reeses that own Farm Basket. Farm Basket was like the high school hangout where I was when I was in high school. So you get to know a little bit more about people than you ever would. And we're not going to do that sitting. Even we go to banquets, and banquets are a great time, and you're there for 3 or 4 hours. But that's not what you're discussing, right? You're not discussing those things, and you don't let your guard down. You get away from the wives and the kids, and you kind of let your guard down and talk about all that stuff. And I think it's a great thing just in the long run.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Let me tell you, just the outdoors has something about it, and I don't know what it is, but I know when I first went to college, I got in trouble and I was kicked out of BYU.
Uh-oh. You want to tell the story what happened?
It was not. It wasn't a real bad thing. But
you had a beard, huh?
No.
Your beard.
I got kicked out of BYU.
You don't have to tell
too.
us. Go ahead. I'm happy to hear you got kicked out of BYU. It makes me like you more. But go ahead.
But so I came back to Las Vegas, went to UNLV. At the time when I went, now you got to understand, this was like more than 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They had ashtrays on the desks in the classes.
Are you serious?
You could smoke on your desk.
This ain't no BYU.
They made them. You had to empty the trays out, and put them back on the desk at the end of class. But I didn't fit in very well, and I heard that they have a survival program there now, and if you get accepted to the survival program, you can go back to BYU, because if you go on survival, they put you on social probation, but after a year, then you're all fine. You're just a regular guy there.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on the survival program, and it was 30 days in the wilderness. You really saw you would see a car on the weekend, because you would stop and camp on the weekend and kind of bathe in the river and get a little extra to eat. But then you would survive on a bag of, it was a little bread bag, about a little bit less than a bread bag, had some stuff in it to eat. But otherwise you were supposed to forage, you know what I mean? And they were really careful, so that you didn't harm yourself.
Where did you do this at?
Boulder Mountain.
Oh, okay.
And Coral Reef area. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all down in there. We probably, I can't remember, but we talked about maybe over that month walked 300 miles or 280 miles or something. So you would walk almost all day long, and then in the evening we made traps to trap things, and we learned how to make a bow drill and all of that kind of stuff. But long story short is something about the wilderness is good for people. I mean, there's something good about it for your spirit. The guys that did it just retired not too long ago when I went to the retirement party. It was Zeke Sanchez and Larry Dienholtz, and kind of the forerunners of the survival program to help youth, you know. And I've been sold on it ever since then. That's why Boy Scouts and things like that can really, you know, kind of get me, okay, this is a good thing. Being in the wilderness, in the dark so you can't see, and you end up, after you're there, you're not afraid, and all those other things that make you feel good about yourself, and the way that when you're in the wilderness, pretty much all of the trappings of society are gone. You know what I mean? And that's hunting too. You know, at the end of that, the thing at the end, they had like a great big goose, you know, and all the people that were on it, we chased it down, and the girls helped and the guys helped, and we killed it and we cleaned it and we cooked it and ate it. There's something about that, knowing where everything comes from and how it works, that is really good for people. You know, so I admire you guys when I listen to your podcast, because you're really big on that the wilderness is something we want to protect. Sportsmen protect it. It's a place to go that helps and heals a lot of things for people, like you've talked about. Anyway, so just the wilderness part of it is kind of sometimes the best part. I remember as a kid meeting the cowboys and stuff on top of the mountain when it's dark, and they made a big fire and boiled coffee and, kick stuff in there. And when this light would start to come up, everybody would take off and go hunt. Those were some times that you don't forget.
Well, I think the wilderness is I look at it as the great equalizer, right? So you can be a small guy, a big guy, a small guy, it doesn't matter. But, to be able to survive in the wilderness and to be able to harvest stuff from the wilderness, you've got to be able to beat the wilderness, and that's a tough thing to do. And so I think you talked about it too. You get away from the city, right? You get away from the problems that are in the city. It's really, I mean, there's no clock. Everything's by nature. And so when you can take 50 guys in there, and they're going to all have the same struggles, right? So you're having to chase your food. Well, guess what? I don't care how big you are. If you can't set a trap, you're not going to trap anything, right? So I think there's a part of that, but I think there's just a part of being back to that primal root. We talk about it all the time. You get back to that primal root that we miss in society, and it's got worse. I mean, guys Ron, Nate, and I's age, I mean, it's got to where some of these people have never stepped foot outside of a city. And so they've never experienced that. And I think once they do, I think it's just kind of, it grips you and pulls you into it, and you want more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, something I noticed, I was up on a recent scout camp with a variety of different boys from different backgrounds, and my kid, and Nate will know this, me and Nate will go to rural Nevada and look at foreclosure auctions, but we're too cheap, so instead of getting a hotel, we'll just go throw cots out in the woods and fall asleep. We've done that for a few years now, and that's kind of how I raise my kids, we just go out in the woods and sleep, and there's the dark and there's animals and things of that nature, and I didn't really realize that actually played a difference in my kid's life until my kid was up at a recent scout camp. He said a couple of things. This one kid was getting really cryy at the end. He was getting really cryy, and he was telling my wife about it, and he goes, you know what? He's a good kid. He just ran out. My wife goes, he ran out of what? He goes, well, he ran out of grit. So, and then another thing, like you're saying about that dark, is one night they all set up cots and were sleeping, and there's this one kid that was worried about lions or coyotes coming to get him. And it was the last night that they were camping out there, and Mitchell was tired. And when he gets tired, he gets a little grumpy. And so this kid was whining. He's like, I want to get closer to the middle. I want to get closer to the middle of the camp and closer to the middle of the cot circle, And so Mitchell already got up and moved once, and then the kid goes, well, I'm still scared. I want to get close to the middle. So Mitchell, he took his cot and he pulled it about 50 yards into the woods and said, don't wake me up again. by himself. And so you're right. We have had that disconnect from hunting and from society and just from being out. Like the outdoors scare us now. And what's there to be scared out there? I mean, there's really nothing in Nevada that's going to really hurt you. I mean, there's mountain lions, but they're not really interested in you too much. And I mean, when's the last time you heard a mountain lion attacked? You know, there's black bears and brown bears, and you know, but for the most part, you can sleep out in a cot and you're just going to be left alone, and you're just going to be able to enjoy yourself.
Well, we've kind of wussified society, right? So my kids are lucky enough that we live a different lifestyle than a lot of people, and so living rural even more. I mean, my kids have killed chickens. They know when you get a bunch of chickens that some of them are going to probably die, and that's just the nature, you know. Things die, and we never hid that from our kids. So many parents are, you know, they have the kid gloves on all the time, and the kids aren't allowed to experience life. They're not. A lot of kids don't know anything about death until they're, you know, in junior high school or high school. They've never seen anything die. My kids realize that's a part of life at a very young age. So, you know, I remember my kids were 6 or 7 years old, and we were butchering chickens and stuff like that, and they were right in the middle of the mix. But it makes them a more well-rounded person. Even my youngest son does not hunt, and he doesn't hunt because he's against it. He hunts because he hunted with us once, and I asked if he wanted to go again. He said, not if I have to get up that early. But I know that if things came to it, that he has no qualms of going and harvesting an animal and being able to cook it and clean it and take care of it, because he's been raised around it. Now, you get a kid from Las Vegas, especially the inner city of Las Vegas, it ain't happening. So those kids are at a disadvantage, and I think we owe it to our youth to give them every advantage to be able to survive if they need to.
Sure.
And we look at Argentina and look at what's happened with Argentina and those places back there, and some of those countries that were all well off, and now people are looking at family pets for a food source.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much.
That's why you get big dogs. Hey, Nate, didn't you just recently go on a scout camp? And you could talk to that experience of having inner city kids, and you saw the importance of having them out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just in charge of a fishing. I was over all the fishing.
Yeah.
And really, I wasn't over the fishing. I was over the retying of flies on.
I was going to say, you weren't in charge of catching, obviously.
Yeah, it was. But some of these boys just, you know, I think, to touch on what Brian said, is these boys just have never experienced a real success, and they've never experienced a real failure. And you need those two things to realize that you don't have to be afraid in life of anything. That the worst thing that happens is you don't get what you want.
And you work harder next time, right?
Yeah, and you work harder. You change your goals. You switch gears. You know, and so if you're going to do that, and you get to go see these young men. I mean, we had 80 young men up there, and Ron actually, this was Ron's camp. He planned it 2 years ago, and did you get to come up just for a day, or did you?
We went up there to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Ron had planned this, and then just to see that full thing come together and see these young men that had never caught a fish catch fish. In fact, one boy, his grandpa was taking him deep sea fishing 2 days after the camp ended, and he was horrified. He was horrified. And so we caught him. He got a 6-pound trout.
Nice.
And that changed his whole thing. He went to his dad and said, "Hey, I'm not afraid of a fish anymore. I mean, you know." and you think, gosh, you were afraid of a fish at one point, you know?
People are afraid of the unknown, and kids even more. And so if you don't have the fewer experiences you have, the more you have to fear.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we've coddled our kids. We send a kid to school, and everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a trophy, right?
Not mine.
And so, mine either. I pulled my kids out of soccer because they didn't keep score. And I'm like, why are you going to play soccer if you're not keeping score? My kids don't need to play there. But
they didn't say you couldn't keep score, Brian. Sounds like
well,
you're
I did.
lazy.
So my kid knocks some kid on the ground because he was messing with his buddy.
I mean, Brian wants his kids to be tough. I've seen them win, and he goes and takes the trophy away and says, "I don't think you deserve that."
No, but
I said 10 points.
But we
you only won with 9.
Exactly. But our society's taught these kids that you win on everything. So what it's made bad winners and bad losers both.
Yeah.
So
poor sport.
So why would I try as a kid that I put all my effort into it, I spent all my time getting to be the best at something, and the kid that didn't even try anything is getting the same award I'm getting? It doesn't make it. It's not reality. And then they get into the real world and they get into the business world, and they can't handle not being right all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can't have they don't have that perseverance that that hunting really teaches. And that's the thing is you can go out, you can scout, you can have the best gun, you can have the ammunition. I mean, I bought some new ammunition.
You
when
could have seen the antelope there the year before.
Yeah, you could have seen the antelope there. You can have everything dialed in, and you can still come back empty-handed, and knowing that you did the best you did and the best you could do under those circumstances. There's value in that, and people forget that, right?
Well, the most value is in failure, if you ask
Yeah.
me. I mean, that's where you do the most
Yeah.
learning. You don't learn by getting it right every time, right?
Yep.
You learn when you fail, and you have to come up with an alternative solution,
Sure.
right? So, okay, I tried this, it didn't work. Now we're going to try something else, and so that's where our learning is. But we've taken that away from kids. So they don't get that anymore. It's like,
Realize that that's just a step in getting it right.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
it's like,
and
hey, I don't
it
have to
may
do
just
that now.
it may
I can
be
do that.
that's not your gig, right? Maybe you're not a hunter. Maybe that's just not your thing. You're never going to be good at it. So let's find something that you are going to be good at. They've taken it all out of school, so we don't have the auto shops and stuff anymore,
Oh, I
wood
know.
shop and a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff. They've taken it out of the curriculum. But what about that kid that's mechanic? That's his gift,
Yep.
right? We've taken the opportunity for him to use his gift,
Yeah.
and I think we need more of that. And I think that's why it's important.
It almost delays their life because they could develop later in life, but now like they could have been a master mechanic when they left high school. Now they have to wait till they get out of high school.
Exactly. We're lucky because we have an ag program and stuff, so my boys have got to be an ag program, and Cody's kind of found where he fits. But I think when we don't allow kids to do that, we're asking for a problem because we're not going to
Yeah.
have mechanics and craftsmen when in 10, 20 years it's a dying breed, and I see it in the construction industry. I mean, the labor we're getting is not skilled anymore.
Well, and that's you've got to have those opportunities open up to those kids.
Yeah.
And if they don't have the like take me, if you were to, Ron and I just had this discussion about his boy, and we had been up. I had taken your boy somewhere for the weekend,
Did you take him to your like youth conference or something?
maybe something like
Yeah.
that. But he came back and he said, "Hey, what do you want to do? What do you like? He's 12 years old, 13 years old. He's got his whole life to make a decision." He goes, "Oh, I think I'm just going to end up like my dad," and that's horrifying in one aspect.
Yeah, it's horrifying for all of us.
Horrifying.
You better get good at
It's horrifying for the universe.
But hey, I want my nieces, my nephews, my kids to be exposed to as many different opportunities so that they can decide what they want. And you're right, we've pulled all those opportunities away
Yeah.
in a society where they don't have wood shop, they don't have mechanics, they don't have ags anymore, and so they're just learning writing, arithmetic,
History,
language arts,
geometry.
history.
Well, you're learning to go to
You know.
college. Is what you're learning to do.
Yeah, and it's an issue. And so when you take a big group of boys out, or a small group of boys or girls, and say, "Hey, look, you can be out in the mountains, and look, you're not gonna die if you don't get food for 24 hours."
I might.
You know.
You're gonna be grumpy.
But
Be hangry.
you can make it through it, and making it through it's a reward in itself.
Yeah, it shows you your boundaries.
Yeah.
It doesn't just apply to kids though. Like something that you have with childhood is you have time. What do they say? Time's wasted on the youth, right?
Yep.
But there's a similar aspect to Ron. He's almost like living his second childhood now, where he just has an excess amount of time, and so there's that generation.
Is that true, Ron? Because
Like-
every time I call to hang out with you, you're always busy.
If you got all this time, I got some projects.
Busy guys are always going to be busy.
I
That's just a
haven't
rule.
figured out how to not be busy yet.
My grandfather
But
said
it's
But-
not important.
But you have more choices with your time.
You bet.
And so, like with that generation too, just like the kids, it takes someone like Nate to offer that to them, to get them back out there and do it. Would you?
Yeah.
How long would it have taken you to go out there and do that by yourself? Do you think?
I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it.
He wouldn't have done it. And so when it comes back to the podcast of the take one, teach one mentality, it is important. It is important to not only offer it to kids, but offer it to everybody. Like
Yeah.
maybe there's a guy that grew up as a city boy, he never had that aspect, and you're like, hey, he's like, well, I've always been interested in it. Take him.
Yeah,
Take him.
And you as that taker, right? You as the teacher,
Yeah.
I can almost promise you're going to come away with something more
You bet.
than what you give. And even to the fact that my buddy Aaron Nelson, he says, "Nate, even from the manure of one life, you can pluck the seeds of success." Right? And so you can look at that, and there's guys you've spent in the blind, and you're like, "Ooh, that was rough. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with that, you know.
I don't. I
So-
only deal with it once usually.
But
You had your chance.
yeah, I mean, and Ron, we've been out hunting 2 or 3 times now, and,
Yeah.
and great experience. And you've introduced me to extra people when we went on that pheasant hunt.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that pheasant hunt, like when I fall asleep at night and people are like, well, what do you dream about? First, I dream about my wife,
Yeah.
right? Second,
Good answer.
That's
Is-
usually because she's beating you.
yeah, she's make sure that I'm submissive. And second
Push
is
the lotion on.
we have on videotape my dog pointing and me going up
Yeah.
and flushing the bird and Ron swinging up on it and just this perfect, most beautiful take of a pheasant that you could ever imagine. And that's just burnt into my memory. Now, we're lucky because his son is an amazing videographer,
Yeah.
and he was out there, and so those things that happen in 2 seconds, he was able to capture for life for us. And so I get to see it every time that I think about that, and I think about that and my dog and my friends out having a great time, and we had a great time. And then after we all got together and we smoked
Yeah.
the pheasants, we ate them all the next day, and
Yeah.
I don't think anyone disenjoyed their time up there.
Oh, that was a great trip. That was really fun. That was a good one.
Yeah, I 110% agree with that. I mean, there's nothing better than taking someone out and teaching them something new. And Ron, man, I'm glad that Nate had a chance to take you out there, and I'm glad he didn't kill you out there. So what would you say, Ron, to someone that may be hesitating in hunting? They're like, man, like I was talking to some guy yesterday, and he's like, you know what? I just don't got all the pieces together yet. He's like, I don't got all the pieces together yet. I don't got it all figured out yet. And I have a real problem with that is because me and Nate, we're very impulsive. Like if you say, oh, I don't have all the pieces together, me and Nate are like, well, just go do it. You'll figure out the pieces as you go, you know? So what would you say to somebody that says, hey, I just don't have all the pieces together. I don't have it figured out yet.
You know, that's what you're probably talking about me. I'm
Okay.
a pretty careful. You know what I mean? I want to have everything figured out when I do it.
You got the wrong friend.
Yeah.
But it's the right.
You pick
it's
better
a-
friends,
No,
Ron.
it's the right kind of. It's the right kind of friend because that gets me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I got old and I got in my comfort zone. I would say, you know, I was feeling like I needed to find a friend to go with. I mean, that's how I learn. You know, I like to see it happen. You know, I don't like to read a book and figure it out about it.
You're a hands-on learner.
Yeah, not that I don't. If I'm doing something and I want to learn more about it, I can grab a book. But I want to see going out and doing it is
You want to get your hands
yeah.
dirty.
And besides that, it's really fun. I think you would almost have to take somebody, or I think Endow does a great job with those classes they give, like the
Yeah.
antelope class and the deer class and the elk class. I mean, they're pretty good.
They've done a fly fish. We went to a fly fishing one time when my kids were younger. And
Oh,
they do some really good stuff that Endow doesn't get credit for. They do
yeah.
when they do free fishing day.
yeah.
A lot of times they put on a youth derby, and every time we went, everybody that went has walked away with a brand new fishing pole. Things
Wow.
like that. I think we talk about Ron. Ron and I are polar opposites on a lot of things, right? So I'm more like you, Ron. I kind of weigh everything, measure everything, kind of want to have a good
Sure.
idea which direction we're going. And Ron's like, hey, we're going down some road. I got your kid, and I'll meet you at the bottom on this road. And I'm like, that's not the road you think it is. And he goes, well, you'll find us eventually. You know, but I
We'll
think
get there.
there's part of that that's you got to have that impulsive part of
You
your
bet.
life, and so he's made me a stronger person, and I've helped pull him back on certain things sometimes, and so we kind of work well together. And I think I remember taking you when we went on the duck hunt.
Yeah.
Was that your first duck hunt you ever went on?
Yes, I had never hunted duck
So
before.
brand
Were we even
new.
successful? I can't even remember that
Yeah, I
morning.
think we got a couple.
No, we were
No.
didn't do
Okay,
well.
I didn't think so. Go ahead,
But-
though. Finish
but-
the story.
I remember Ron. Ron comes out with brand new gun. I mean, still. I mean, I don't think he'd even shot it
I
yet.
hadn't shot it before.
And so he puts this gun together. We get all the way out to the duck blind, and I think if I remember right, we were in like 5, so it was a walk.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
plug.
So it was a little bit of a walk, and so, you know, then Ron was like, "Hey, let me see your gun real quick. I want to check it." And he goes, "You got a plug in this gun, right?" And he's like, "What? Do I have a what?" And Ron's like, "You have a plug in your gun." He goes, I don't know. So we checked. He didn't have a plug in his gun. So we didn't
One
check
bullet,
before.
2 bullets.
Yeah, we
Three
didn't check before we
bullets.
left the truck.
We're in trouble.
So Stoker walks out and he went all the way back to the truck, gave him his gun, and he said, "Hey,
Yeah.
if there's ducks come, use my
Yeah.
gun. I'll go grab your plugs for you." So, but that's the things you wouldn't know. And so if you
Yeah.
were to be out there by yourself doing that because you just decided, "Hey, I'm going to go duck hunting,"
Yeah,
now you got an issue with the game warden.
sure.
So there's a lot to be said for going out with an experienced
You
hunter
bet.
that's looking at those things and saying, "Hey, just making sure you're on the up and up." And the biggest problem we see with new duck hunters is identifying birds. So if you have somebody there that gives you that confidence to be able to shoot, a lot of times new hunters
Yeah.
they'll pass on every bird because they don't know what they can shoot.
Yeah, and
what
if you have
they
an
can't.
experienced hunter, he can say, "Hey, here it comes. Okay, we got 2 birds coming. You can take both of these."
And it's easier to see once you've done it enough, kind of where the
Yeah.
pattern's going to be, what you're looking for. You can identify a little bit better. So it's important for us to get these guys out in the blinds that have never gone before to give them that
Yeah.
experienced mentorship. And then we create good hunters out of it versus the hunters we don't want to be around. Because I don't care whether you're deer hunting, rabbit hunting, whatever. There's going to be idiots out there hunting. Like
They could ruin your hunt.
I have
Yeah.
some family that they drink when they hunt. Like from the time they get up till
Yep.
the time they go to bed, they drink.
Red Bulls.
I won't hunt with anybody that's drinking. It's just
Yeah.
it's just my thing. It's a safety issue. It's all sorts of things, and I don't have anything against drinking. I have a beer or two myself, and
You just not like lead poisoning?
I don't like lead poisoning in particular. That's probably why I don't dove hunt opener either. It's just
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
you're probably gonna get shot. It's just.
That's steel poisoning, though.
Yeah, but I think you're right, though. I think we surround ourselves with so many different people, and then you find
Yeah.
yourself an opposite that can pull you out of that comfort zone. Either way, whether it's you're over aggressive or under aggressive, they can pull you out of that comfort zone a little bit and pull you towards the middle.
You bet.
The best part about hunting with other people too is you have different brains in the blind. Like Brian's a very minimalist when it comes to duck hunting. I like to try a lot of things, and then
Ron would bring his whole house with him if he could.
yeah, one time I went hunting with
It's the garage.
Yeah,
one time I went hunting with Scott and Brian wasn't there to hold us back. Man, we had so many decoys out there. It was phenomenal. But then you'll have people like Ron that's very analytical, and he'll look at the ducks and look how they're flying and try to figure out what's the best setup for the next thing. And then you'll look at Nate, and Nate's like, "Well, I'm gonna get a guide," And so like you have like 3 different mindsets out there, and so it makes it very interesting to take out new people, even people that I've never hunted, because they're gonna have a different perspective on it. And it's very nice. One of my favorite memories with Ron is not walking all the way back to the truck. That was the pits. But we get back to the blind, and it wasn't that great of a hunt day, but we had an okay day. And I remember seeing something with Ron that I've never seen before, and it was almost better than shooting a duck. These 2 teal come whipping across, and then before we could shoot them. And do you remember this, Ron? That hawk came right out of the air
Oh yeah, that was great.
and nabbed the teal in mid-flight, just pulled
Yep.
it right out of the air, right in front of the Ron. He was like, "Well, if you're not going to shoot him, I'll take one out for you guys."
yeah, I got this.
So what would happen if you had drawn up at the same moment that hawk had? You shoot at the same moment that hawk grabbed the
You'd have to
duck.
do the right thing
Yeah.
and just call the game warden. That's what I would do.
You just,
And that's the funny. You get to see cool things when you're out in the
Yep.
in the hunting environment. So Ron and I we were out fishing, doing a fishing tournament. I think it was Otter Creek that we saw the ducks that
Yeah,
day.
it was right by Antimony where you were with that scout group.
So we're
Yeah.
at Otter Creek, we're fishing, and we're doing okay. I mean, we're doing a Woods and Waters tournament, and there's a duck pair on the water, a nice pair of mallards, right? And so the next thing you know is this mallard drake comes right in, and he goes at it with that mallard drake that was sitting on the water, and they go at it, and he chases the mallard drake that was with that hen off of the water, and he's throwing a fit and
like flying away just screaming. He sounded like a Good Morning Overton on a Saturday.
and that new drake just swims right off with his
I was
with
like,
his
"Oh, they
new
do
girlfriend."
They do make that sound.
But it was pretty cool to watch because it's not something
Yeah.
you see every day, right? And so you
Yeah.
get out in the wild and you get to see those encounters. I got to see. It was one of the coolest things I ever seen was we were out at Sunnyside hunting, and it was frozen. A lot of the lake was frozen, and we saw a bald eagle land on the frozen lake.
Oh.
And if you've ever seen ducks go onto a frozen pond, they land and they skid for probably 50, 60 yards and just keep going. That bald eagle was the same way, and he was just sitting right out on the ice, just chilling. you know.
Tell us about your experience with your daughter up at that penguin trip we just went to. Speaking of experiences you'd never have if you didn't go out there, with the river.
Oh, well, they had they.
And this was your kid's idea, 110%.
Yeah, 110%. Your daughter and my daughter are best friends, and that's kind of weird to think about. That they're friends, but
No redheads had friends, but go ahead.
Yeah.
They don't have souls. They have friends, right? Just
They
no
have
souls.
friends. So they had decided to walk up the river, and it's
By
it's
river,
not
you
even
mean
a
a
creek.
creek,
It's
like-
a creek. It's like
Like
Yeah.
3 feet across, maybe.
and 6 inches deep, maybe.
Yeah.
6 inches deep at the deepest, and they're out there, and my kids are kind of tightly monitored, you know. I believe helicopter parent might be the term, but we really love them. We love our kids, and so we want to keep them safe.
He has 2, I have 5. So.
Yeah. So
Ron has a few to lose.
what's Ron's motto? He's got.
You can always make another
He's
one.
got a spare.
Exactly.
He's got one to spare. So, but so they had went off, and it had been about 30 minutes. My wife's not going to listen to this, right?
Probably not, man.
Okay, good. So our daughters take off up this river about 30 minutes, and Ron's fine, but I start to get worried. So I go out and look around for him and see him, and come back in, sit down for 15 more minutes, and then go back out. And finally I go, I'm just going to walk up and see him. Because they're like down in the river, and it's cold and windy.
It was like 30 degrees that
Yeah,
day.
it was
like
just-
20 mile an
It
hour
was
winds.
nasty.
Ugh.
Like, I was
Yeah.
tired just sitting on the couch by the fire.
Yeah, and so I get up there, and like they've got their coats off, and they're wet, and they've got this net. And I'm going, what are you girls doing? And they go, there's fish. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like little minnows? They go, no, there's like fish. And so, like, oh, sure, come on, girls, let's go. And right as I say that, this 22-inch, 2.5-pound brown trout just
Yeah.
comes shooting down the river like a missile, and they scoop it up.
That was a beautiful
Yeah,
fish, man.
beautiful, and run it back. And it was the second biggest fish.
Yeah, there's something. The crazy thing about that fish is it had all its fins torn off, like it had been
Yeah.
fighting
Yeah.
or something.
It was brutal.
Yeah, that's something you never have unless you got out there, and you're with friends.
Yeah, and they, man, just to see their eyes light up that they were running back. They're running back to the weigh scale. And, we got a late entry. Let's weigh it. And they just were so excited, so happy to do that. And then that was a good tasting fish. It was way better tasting than the fish I caught.
Well, that's the thing is the kids get out and do things like that. I remember we used to go up every year with my grandparents in the Pine Valley. And we'd camp out for 2 weeks. So the 2 weeks before school started, parents would drop us off, and then they'd leave, and we'd be with our grandparents for 2 weeks, my cousins and my brother and I. And then my parents would come at the end of the camping trip, and we'd go home and go to school on Monday. I remember there's skunks up there, so we would wait till everybody's sitting in the chairs, and we'd go get some cereal or something and start throwing them under people's chairs and watch the skunks come in and just
So messed up.
that was just what we did. And I remember, at that age, I think I was probably 8 or 9 at the time, my one cousin and I, we loved to fish. And so we would get up before the sun came up, we would walk down to the reservoir, and we would fish all day until it got dark, and then we would walk back to camp. And it was every day, and we did that every single day we were up there. But you have those experiences, and you're not going to get those. There's nothing that can substitute for those experiences. You can't get them on Xbox or
Yeah.
Oculus Rift or whatever you want to do. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and you'll always remember them, right?
Exactly.
So-
Yeah, but when it comes down to it, Ron, and it comes down to you being introduced into hunting again, there's a lot of people out there that are living the city life and living the hustle, like you hustled for years as a businessman, and and we were talking to one of our close friends at Beck's, and I was saying, hey, listen, I know you're hustling right now, but getting out a little bit and doing a little hunting, man, it does a lot for you mentally, and it helps you reset.
Yeah.
How was it hunting out there? You being a little bit older, was it rough on you? Was it enjoyable, or how was it?
It wasn't rough on me. I guess when we dragged that in, got a little bit out of breath. But I've had some health problems when we were at the duck blind.
Yeah.
I had a new heart valve and a pacemaker after that.
Did you tell us?
Huh?
I guess you were two medics. You'd be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was kind of like you guys were carrying all my stuff, and I felt really kind of. You put it on that cart, and you guys were walking pretty fast, and I kind of went. I had a hard time keeping up then because it was just pretty shortly before I did it, So
Yeah.
Sometimes I climb on the cart with them, and they don't notice.
The funny thing about that, Ron, is every single time we go out, we carry everybody's stuff. We didn't know you had a
Yeah.
heart thing, so.
anyway, so yeah, it was. I would probably. I mean, I didn't have a hard time. I mean, I wouldn't be able to keep up with a really fast walking person.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like sometimes when I would go with the young scouts, but in the last 4 or 5 years, those guys are all on the track team and stuff, and it's like I would always catch up,
Yeah.
but so
But if you're going out and you're a little bit older, it always does help to bring somebody like Nate's age.
yeah,
And he'll do most of the work for you, but you'll still have an enjoyable experience.
yeah.
And a lot of guys, like, did you have any? Were you ever like resentful of Ron? Like, hey, Ron's really not pulling his weight around here.
Oh no.
kind of.
I mean, I had to cut him with the knife.
Well, then he pulled his
Yeah.
weight after that. I
Yeah,
bet too.
then he started.
yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're going out and you're older age or something, like there's no shame in not keeping up.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
younger guys will take care of you. Like even with Blaine, like when we go out with Blaine now, like he doesn't move as fast. No, he actually outworks us. Okay, I take that back.
I was gonna say the same thing about Ron, as I was having a hard time keeping up with him. So
Yeah.
Well, Ron and I talk about it during the beginning of the season. We're a lot slower. Beginning of the season. By the end of the season, you've done so many miles getting in and out of duck blinds and stuff like that
Yeah.
that you lost a little bit of weight, and you built up that endurance a little bit too. So it gets a little easier as we go through the season. So we have to realize sometimes too that everybody else is starting their duck fit journey, and,
Duck fit,
and we're
yeah.
halfway through it. So
Nate always makes fun of me at the end of duck season. He's like, I like watching it in duck season because it's like a caterpillar. Like you're nice and skinny, and then like 3 weeks later you're fat again. I don't know how you do it. It's magic.
it was bad this last year. You saw it was like even Rock, his dog, just
we
just
worked
skin
Rock.
down and then comes right back
We,
up.
we worked Rock really hard this year. I mean, he got a workout this year for sure. So.
Dude, I remember looking at Rock came into the office one day. Ron didn't take him home for some reason. Man, he's a pretty dog, but he's got a huge head for that body. He's just got this thin, slender. And then, I go up and see Rock in the summertime. Oh, okay, there's the rest of it. So,
we found him.
Listen,
so good
I
looking.
feed him so much on the off season. Like he has unlimited access to food. So I do not start he gets unlimited access to food. He gets all the leftover deer parts. Like he is eating like a king. He gets egg yolks.
Sardines and oysters.
Yeah,
and
he eats egg yolks every single meal. Like I feel like people are like, oh, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't take care of his dog. I take care of my dog. That thing is just a machine.
No, he's a machine. Yeah.
yeah, he's and he works. I mean, we had a couple hunts this year that we do back to back or 2 or 3 days, and by the third day you can tell he's done. And so he needed a break, and so he'll get a day or two off, and then he'll be right back at it. But it's kind of like us going hunting. We wouldn't want it any other way. He wants to be out there. In fact, Ron, we went to do a service project last weekend, and Ricardo was over at the house with Randy.
We're loading kayaks.
And Ron's coming to get me and loading kayaks. He got waders, throwing waders in the car, and Rock wouldn't get out of the car.
Yeah, Rock's
He's like, no, I know you guys are going duck hunting without me. This ain't gonna happen. So,
like physically had to pull him out and put him in the house because he kept on jumping back in the
and
car.
if I show up to the house early in the morning, it's over. Rock's like, no, we're going hunting. Let's go.
So,
the dog matches the person. Now the sad thing is it took me 2 years to convince Ron to get a dog. You know that?
Well, and the only reason he got a dog is because he wanted a boat, and he told me he couldn't have a boat without a dog.
That's
so.
right. That's right. And then I had to go on and find the dog breeder for him. So
yeah, no, I can't. Like, I know I introduced Nate back into hunting. Nate introduced Ron back into hunting. It's a big circle, and I can't thank Nate enough for getting me into duck hunting. It's become one of my biggest passions in life. I mean, we started a podcast because of it. I got to know Brian. Like, me and Brian, we hung out a little bit before, but once we started duck hunting, now we're unfortunately we're like
We were friends.
we're really tied now. Like,
We were friends until you decided that you need to give me a calling.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, I tricked him a little bit, but I can't like Ron said earlier, you can't put a value on the friends you make when you're out hunting with somebody. you make a bond and you get to know somebody, you know if they're good or they're bad within the first 100 miles. So, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, do you got any other tips or anything that you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
And one thing I admire about you guys is that you're patient you're patient with the people that you're teaching, and even don't get upset with people, or you don't show it, that are hunting at the same time. I mean, I've been, with Nate and kind of thought, he's good people.
Yeah, I know, and that's a big part of it, is getting out with people that are just good people, and you can't get mad at somebody that doesn't know, right?
Yeah.
And so we do get frustrated because there are people that know better, and so they ruin a hunt, and there's no excuse for it in my mind. But we take people out, and we ask you to come into a blind with us, or you ask to come into a blind with us. Why am I going to treat you any different than I'd treat Ron? And that's really the how it's got to work. You've got to be able to be patient with people and give them the experience and let them have the opportunity to see if it's something that they're interested in and they enjoy it.
Sure.
Yeah, let them enjoy it as much as you've enjoyed it, and let them have that moment, let them have that first shot. Even though you got to scream at him because he's asking which one's the mom, you still let him have that first shot. So, and Ron, thanks so much for coming on the show, and thanks so much for, your experience and everything you've done for Vegas. And I know you moved a lot last year, so you weren't able to get out hunting with us, but hopefully we'll get you out this year. I really look forward to it. And maybe we'll shoot a duck this time.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well,
good, great.
Appreciate you being on, Ron. It's always a good time, and man, like Ron said, we got to get you out again, the blind again, and have a little good time with us. So, well, like we always say, if you're going to take somebody out this weekend, make sure you take somebody with you. If you're going to go out, if you're going to take somebody with you, make sure you teach them something. If you can't take somebody or teach somebody, make sure you hunt hard.